Welcome to Lead with a Coaching Mindset. Today, we are very lucky to have with us Helena Curtis, who is the Executive Director for Learning and Organizational Development at the University of Southern California. We know each other for more than 15 years, and I am very proud of seeing her career growth. And in her last position, we have an opportunity to interact and collaborate. So thank you very much for accepting the invitation. I know you are very busy, and I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here with you.
And the conversations in this podcast is about how leaders that develop a coaching mindset can engage people and get people more inspired and feel more developing more well-being in organizations. And I know that you are a really great model in doing that and creating opportunities in the university for people to develop this coaching mindset. So, do you want to introduce yourself briefly for people who do not know you, who you are, what you do, anything that you can share?
Sure. So, again, as Damian said, my name is Helena Curtis. I've been in human resources for a really long time, back when it was called personnel. That's how long I've been in human resources. And I've worked in all aspects and areas of human resources, from benefits, talent acquisition, employer relations, you name it, I've done it. But my sweet spot has been around talent management and employee development, as well as organizational development. I have had the benefit of working with some great leaders over the years in these spaces and decided I wanted to be one of them. In this work, I have an opportunity to build amazing, impactful programs with an amazing team, of course, where we can help individuals excel in the working environment and find purpose and thrive. So the learning and organizational development covers so much, and it's with great joy that I get to do my work every day with the team that I get to do it for and with.
Yes, I know your team, and they're pretty amazing people, and they do great work. I have the pleasure to collaborate with them in different projects. And starting to explore what great leaders do in terms of developing this mindset that really pay attention to people's growth and development and learning. Do you want to share a little bit what is your vision as a leader in terms of how to create these environments where people can really flourish and bring their best to work?
Absolutely. One of the tenets of coaching that I absolutely love is this notion of curiosity. And as a leader, I spend a lot of time sitting in the space of being curious. The way that I channel that is that I ask my team where are they at? What is it that they look to do? What's exciting them? And in the spirit of supporting them through, I guess, servant leadership, it's really I operate with the mindset of, oh, sorry,
It's okay.
I I show up where by being curious about who they are and understanding what excites them and makes them thrive and makes them excel. I work to create those types of conditions. I have a team of between directs and indirects of 24 individuals. Each person they have different superpowers, they have different interests and passions. So to ensure that I can show up for that individual, that's been my mantra since I started managing people. So be curious, asking the questions, and then working to deliver on those asks so that there's an understanding of trust that's built into the relationship. Um, in many ways, leading with a coaching and curious and caring, empathetic mindset isn't that difficult, but you have to go into it from day one wanting to show up like that. And that was always the draw for me. How do I create the environment where people can show up as their best or better selves?
Great. And what you're bringing is this curiosity, being genuinely interested in who is the person that
Absolutely.
you are working with. So by building that interest and getting to know them, you can get closer to them and see how whatever they need to do is aligned to their interests and goals and vision for themselves.
Right. I mean, I understand that individuals get hired in through job descriptions, but I don't think that's a box that a leader has to put everyone in all the time. I think that there's a lot of gray that will ensure their role and the work that they do meets the needs of the organization. But how do we help create jobs and excitement in jobs that allow people to do what gets them excited and brings them to work, especially during challenging times.
And in these challenging times, I know that many organizations are facing ambiguity and unknown, and they're really navigating changing times. And this is not new. Over the years, all organizations face challenges in different ways. Sometimes social, political forces also impact the climate in the organization. And right now in the United States and worldwide, because I talk too much today, I was having a meeting with people from Australia and they said, oh, everything that's happening in the United States is affecting us too. So I think whatever is happening here in the US affect the whole world. Now, the question that I have for you is how do you support your team to navigate these challenging times? Because I think that many leaders are finding that challenging, difficult. What do you do to keep a positive stand, a growth mindset? How do you do that?
Well, you know, if you, it might, some leaders might be tempted to run away from the challenging topics, say, you know what, we're going to avoid it. We're just going to act like nothing's happening. I actually go a different route, and I've built this rapport with my team. I work as hard as I can to be as transparent, as open as possible, and I am very intentional about creating spaces in which when I ask folks, "How are you doing?" I really want to know how they're doing because I understand that wherever their head is or their heart is, it's going to show up in the work. So I create spaces first and foremost to have those dialogues. I do that in individual settings and one-on-ones with my leaders and my team members, but I also do that in a group setting. I create spaces for individuals to ask me the hard questions and I give them as best as possible the real responses so they understand that I'm with as best as possible. I have as open of a communication. It's two-way communication, and it's as honest as possible. It's as transparent as possible because, especially during difficult times, if individuals are feeling like, "Wait a minute, my manager is not being real with me or upfront with me," I'm going to shut down, and I'm going to, turn inward and maybe get more resentful. So I start there because I think it's really important for me to, as a leader, to foster and facilitate trust in the work environment. And then from there, it's again continuing the conversations of, as part of those check-ins, really monitoring, almost being a little hypervigilant about those folks whose energies are shifting. So one of the things that I do a lot with is do a temperature check. I'm asking them about, where are they at? Whether it's using a stoplight or a thumbs up, thumbs down, and being really honest about what's feeding into that. And recognizing that there's going to be certain spaces that I can support them in as a leader. And then there's going to be certain spaces that, I can help them guide that I may not have control over. And I'm, again, very honest and upfront about what I can do in that regard. So I think it starts there. And I have found that during challenging times, when my leaders are above me have been able to do that, it's empowered me and also modeled for me how I can do it with my teams. So hopefully my teams are able to see how I show up and bring that down to their groups as well.
Yeah, what you're bringing is a good point. It's like, who are your own role models as a leader in your organization? Because if you have over you people who are also like you, curious and interested, not avoiding these difficult conversations, as you say, many leaders tend to avoid what is challenging and difficult, and most of the time they may think, okay, if I don't talk about that, that will go away, but rarely that happens. Most of the time, when you avoid something, it gets bigger. So what I'm hearing is not to avoid it, but just be curious. That requires, you say curiosity, and I would add being courageous.
Mm-hmm.
Courageous to
Yes,
be in these places where you may not have all of the answers,
absolutely.
but you are really, because you're being open and authentic and honest, you're not afraid because you are just doing your best in being transparent. So when you do that, you are coming and you're showing up in a way that people you're talking about trust. We have in previous episodes talked about the importance of trust. All of the things are related. It's like being courageous, what you're bringing here today. We listening, we building trust. All of that create an environment where people may do their best because they know they have a leader that is supporting them.
And I've also demonstrated vulnerability. There have been times where I've had to say, I don't know the answer. I can speak from my space of opinion, not fact, and I clearly articulate when I'm doing that. But I've had to speak from places of vulnerability because even though I'm a leader over a team, I'm also an individual, and things hit me. And in previous experiences, and I've also heard about this from other individuals, when they have leaders that show up as stone with no emotion, not reacting to what's going on, it actually it works against them. So I have found that at certain times I've had the tears in my eyes. I've expressed acknowledgement for maybe some frustration, but then I spin that to say, I get it, I understand it. Now, how do we move forward? How do we not get stuck? But how do we say, okay, well, what possibilities or opportunities are available to us past this point? And that's how I try to operate.
What you said is really beautiful because it's about normalizing, validating people's experiences, and at the same time co-creating a desired future. Okay, I think we cannot control, but for the thing that we can control, what we can work on, how we can co-create what we want.
Yeah, because I don't, I think it's as leaders, we should be helping our teams not stay stuck. Let's talk about the issue, unpack and uncover it, but then how do we move forward? How do we progress versus regress and stay in maybe an angry step? How let's talk about how we can move to a positive, action-oriented step. And that's part of coaching, very much so. Let's talk, let's uncover these things. Let's talk through stories that we're telling ourselves. Let's talk through all of these different areas, but then let's move and create action.
We were talking before we started the recording today about how we can create awareness in our colleagues to support them to see things they are not seeing. And do believe that that's one of the key elements of effective leadership when leaders develop a coaching mindset. One of the skills is supporting their colleagues to build new awareness of their blind spot, what they are not seeing, that will help them to be more effective. Any ideas that you can share about that in your experience?
Absolutely. I can think of many conversations in which someone will present with a description of how they're seeing things, and it's one perspective. And I would check, I would test, do a little bit of reality testing. Help me understand the story that you're telling yourselves. Help me understand what evidence you've seen to support or back up the theory that you're having in your mind. Might I offer alternative ways of looking at this? And using that approach, especially where there are certain perceptions based off of like one single source of truth, I work to provide multiple angles in which for them to look at, or maybe point to something else that's factual. Um, those blind spots uh, could potentially place somebody in a space that's, again, it's not going to be productive, and they'll lose time, or they'll spend energy being in this like fixed way, like nothing's going to get better, versus let's unpack this. And that creating that awareness is extremely important, as well as, again, thinking about, okay, in this particular situation, here's multiple perspectives, but then here's what I can control and do something about, versus I'm going to put everything else in that uncontrollable box and set it aside. Um,
What have you done in experiences where people are stuck in this fixed way of thinking versus in this grow mindset, and they cannot move from there? Any examples or any experiences, anything that worked for you?
Sure. I mean, and if I go back to not even just as a leader with teams, I could even talk through when I've worked as an HR partner, working with employees that really believe that their manager was dead set against them, or the system was set up in a way where they couldn't thrive. And I would talk them through the way that they're looking at the situation, and then offering up different examples. So in one particular example, I said, wait a minute, there was this particular, development program that you were invited to. Did you take them up on that? And they were like, well, no. And I said, was that a choice of the manager or you? So we talked through each of those examples, so I could offer up a different worldview. Now, there are some people that are very hard set on this is what it is, but in that one particular situation, I was able to talk that employee down so that he could recognize that there were not limitations put in place by the organization. There were limitations that he chose, whether it was a scheduling conflict or being offered an opportunity and chose not to take it. And that was it. It was, I think you've called it in coaching the light bulb moment. But as I was going through the reality testing of how he was in fact supported, of how there were a lot of investment and resources made in him, you could see the light. It was almost like a dimmer switch turning on, and the room was getting brighter. And at the end of it, he was like, okay, maybe my, it's not always my favorite words, but maybe I could see the situation from a different perspective at the end of it. And that was very rewarding. Uh, and it's, and I think, because I've used a lot of these practices as an HR professional with employees and managers that I've worked with, I also use those same approaches with my team members, so that they, let's not go down the rabbit hole of what's not possible. Let's talk about, imagine a future in which dot, dot, dot.
That's great. I was thinking that these changing perceptions, this looking at things from a different angle, that is in the heart of professional coaching. And when you can bring this to your leadership practices, when you can support others to see what they are not seeing, or seeing a piece that there's a blind spot for them, and is when the transformation is possible, and when new ways of looking at things allow for new possibilities of action. And in my experience, sometimes people don't go there no matter
They
what you
don't.
say and do. So sometimes I say not everybody's coachable. And different coaches have different ideas about that. Some people think that everybody's coachable. In my experience, I agree. And sometimes it's kind of very challenging for some people being able or willing, even they may not be willing to work with you and listen to you and look at something from a different angle. But when you have that invitation and when people are willing to look at places they were not seeing before, it with this new awareness developed, and when this new awareness, new possibilities of action are possible that were not before.
And Damian, what I would say is, even beyond the person being coachable, it's so important that the leader has a desire to be a coach. Leadership is not telling people what to do all the time. There are certain times and places for that. But leaders of teams, whether it's people who directly report to you or people whose sphere you're in and you're working with them towards a common goal, you first have to show up in the space in service of others. You have to want to do coaching, and therefore you have to build the patience muscle. You have to talk through your own judgment. You have to talk through, okay, well, I got to get this done really fast. I just need to get them on my side super quick. Uh, there's work that we as leaders have to do in order to be better coaches as well. I don't want to put this all on the coachees and whether or not they're coachable, if that makes sense. And that's the work that I continue to do as a leader on a regular basis. I continue to examine and reflect. Am I acting in service of the people that I work with so I could do better for them?
This is great to hear, and I'm very inspired by your comments and who you are showing up as a leader. And we need to wrap up. And I'm wondering if there is anything you would like to say to end this episode today.
Being a people manager, people leader is a tough job. It is especially in these challenging times, it is a tough job, but it is so rewarding. I am, I am invigorated by the work that I get to do with my team members. It's powering me through these challenging times. And so, for anyone who wishes to be a people leader, I encourage them to explore deeply their why for doing this work. And if it's aligned, then come join us. We're waiting for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for making the time to get together today. And I really appreciate your support over the years.
Thank you.